Welcome to What's Going On, the weekly podcast and videocast of First United Methodist Church in Yankton, South Dakota. All right, hi, and welcome to What's Going On. This is First United Methodist Church's weekly podcast to know what's going on with our church. I'm Pastor Katie, and today I'm here with a very special guest, one of our lay leaders, Chad Herrmann.
Well, thank you, Katie, and welcome everybody. Hopefully we can give you a little idea of what's going on in the church. Go through the sermon a little bit with you today, and I'm excited to be here. So we'll see how this is my first attempt at one of these, so we'll see how this goes.
Yeah, so you might, if you have been watching this, you are aware that we had been doing this with our associate pastor, Corey, but Corey has moved on from his ministry position here, and so we are going to be changing the format a little bit with inviting some other faces from the church to come and to get to be a part of this and share their perspective on the sermons and on the ministry of the church. And so thanks, Chad, for being the guinea pig this time. I appreciate that.
No problem. We'll see how it goes. So like I said, I'm excited, and no, thanks for having me. I do appreciate it. So it's nice to see, always get a feedback from, the heartbeat of the church, what's going on, and what better way to do that than to talk to some of the members. So.
Yeah, and if you're watching this on video, you will see that we have our screen up again. We are still doing our mass within the church building, but it's hard to do the podcast with the mask. It makes the sound muffled. And so we do still have our screen up this week. So just a little updates on what's going on. We are planning to be back in the sanctuary August 30th, which is less than 2 weeks away.
It's pretty exciting. I think a lot of people have been waiting for that, so that's awesome.
Yeah, so I'm excited. I've only done one funeral in the sanctuary, and that's the only service I've done in there. So,
okay. You're anxious too.
I'm anxious too. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to look a little bit different. The biggest change you'll notice is we're not going to be singing. Our musicians are working hard to still have music within the service, but that's one change that I know is going to be a little bit different. We are requiring masks for anyone ages 4 and above to be in the building. And we will have a series of things as you enter to help us with keeping everybody safe. And so I will be putting out a video next week to show you kind of what that's going to look like in case you're a little anxious about it. You can see exactly what it's going to be to come into our building.
Yeah, and if anybody has questions about, coming back, if you are nervous, as Katie said and stuff, just call the church here, talk to somebody. They'll help you out. I think we all want to get back in this building. The parking lot's kind of fun, but South Dakota weather, it's not gonna be the case in a short time. So we want people to come. We also want people to feel safe. So by all means, call if you got questions. Anybody can help you out. Everybody's wonderful here in the office, especially. So so it'll be great to see some familiar faces back in Sanctuary, even if it's a little different from what we maybe have done in the past. So
the big things are we are still looking for volunteers to help with that. You just call the church office, and everything that we require is pretty simple to do, very little training involved. And then just to know that we will still also be offering our live stream. We know that for some of you in the sanctuary, you're not ready for that yet, and that's okay. And so we just want you to know that we will still be offering that live stream. So I think that's the other big news that is this Sunday is our last Sunday in the parking lot, and we are going to be doing a back to school blessing this week.
Nice.
Yeah, so we want to make sure that any of our students, our children, our teachers, we have a lot of teachers and administrators and staff people that work at schools. We want to bless you this week, and so make sure that if you are coming, bring a bag with you, bring something with you, and we're going to spend a little bit of time in our service this week acknowledging you, knowing that we love and support you, but we're going to be doing a kind of that sort of focus as we finish up our sermon series.
Yeah, and being a teacher myself, as many of you watching this probably already know, that's a pretty big thing. Going back to school is scary, not just for the kiddos, but for the people working with them every day. And there's so much about this situation that's still up in the air, things we know, things we don't know. And, that anxiety transfers to the kids and those sorts of things. But having people, in the corner of those that are out there on the front lines in the schools and everywhere else, having that support and the prayers that people give us, that's incredibly special. And something I think really resonates, not just with the adults that work there, but the kids that go too. And I think when they see us doing things like that, it helps decrease their anxiety a little too. So, that's special, Katie. I think that's a great thing to do. And I'm not saying that just because I'm a teacher, but no, I think a lot of people will get something out of it. And I think that's a great way. School starts Monday for
Right.
a lot of kids. And so it's a great way to transition into that on a positive note. So.
Yeah, and we're not doing our kind of normal fall kickoff, so we want to make sure that you are aware that to come this Sunday. If you aren't able to, I do believe we're going to try to have something to hand out, and we can get that to you if you're unable to be here this week. But that's just kind of something special. It'll be a nice way to kind of, like I said, end cap our time in the parking lot, and also our sermon series, which we've been working on for the month of August, which is on Jesus's first words. So this week, Pastor Corey, in his final service with us as a pastor, gave the message, and so I really loved getting to worship with my family this week, and to sit back and listen to him preach was such a blessing for me. And I thought he just did an awesome job.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I've heard Corey give a good chunk of his sermons over the last 5 to 6 years. I guess about 6. I think he said it was July of 2014. He gave his first one. He mentioned being nervous, but his sermons always came across well to the congregation, and it's nice hearing. It was nice hearing him again and hearing some of his perspective. I'm sure it wasn't an easy Sunday for him. Being the last. You've been through that yourself. Not that long ago, honestly. But it was, I thought he did a real nice job with things as well. So.
Yeah, and to have to do your last sermon in a series, so you're not getting to really choose. I know that's a difficult thing, but I thought he handled it very well. And so if you have been listening, you know that our series is on the first words of Jesus. We're looking at Jesus' first words in each of the Gospels, and we're doing it in order chronologically in Jesus' life. So we started with Jesus as a 12-year-old boy, then we went to his baptism, and then Corey preached this week from the Gospel of Mark, kind of at the beginning of Jesus' ministry. And really, I would say the things that came out for me was what is the good news? And I loved, he said that he normally has a video clip. This was the first sermon I got to hear of Corey's, he had such a great, he did a really great job of explaining the clip from National Lampoon Vacation, the original one, which is true that movie is older than me.
Okay. Yeah, I remember that when I was pretty little too. I might have a couple years on either, Katie, but I remember that too. But no, I agreed with that too. I'm a huge National Lampoon's fan. I don't know what that says about me, but no, when he was describing that, I remember the scene vividly. The look on Clark's face when they said Aunt Edna was coming with, at first I kind of chuckled, and then I got thinking, you know what, that's probably the same face a few of us have been making over the last few months here. Like, what just happened? What have I stepped into the middle of? I think a lot of us have that feeling of, well, it's good news, but is it good news? And, so I resonated a little bit with that analogy because I felt a little myself in that sometimes.
Yeah, I think he made such a good point about, you have good news, but is it good news for me? Is it really good news for how it's being presented? That was one of the pieces that he really got into was, does it actually sound like good news when we talk about our faith or when we talk about our commitments to God and to the church, or do we make it sound like it's good news?
Yeah, no, it's an interesting point. When you look at the movie he was talking about, obviously it wasn't good news at the time. If any of you have seen the film, and if you haven't, that's just suffice to say the family goes through a lot of trials and tribulations on their trip. But what I thought was really interesting about it is at the end of the movie, you see something interesting happen. You see the family grow a bond together stronger than they had when this all started.
Yeah.
So I agree with we sometimes hear the news. We hear stories from the scripture. Some of them can be a little daunting. Can be a little overwhelming to hear. But at the same sense, I think we sometimes understand it's those daunting moments, those things we don't expect, those life moments that pop up that sometimes bring us to a better place than what we started at.
Yeah, it can be really difficult, especially I think it's so timely with where we are in life and in the church where we've experienced so many transitions. I mean, coming into this, you sort of feel like you can't find solid ground. Everything's changing in a really rapid pace, which can be really unsettling, and it can be really tempting to just focus on the negative things. But I think part of our faith is that there is good news in every situation. There is good news because we have a good God. And so then it's a matter of looking for, okay, what is good about this? What can God bring from this? And that's been something that I've really had to live into in my time here is, every day there's a new challenge, but there's also new opportunities within those. And I think God can definitely work within that and use that because ultimately our life and our ministry in the church is built on the good news of Christ. And no matter what challenges come our way, that is stronger, right? The good news is stronger. As Corey said, it's the greatest news we will ever hear and the greatest news we will ever share. And nothing can really stand against that.
No, and I agree. And, your point about it, you bring up an interesting point when you talk about that. So often news is a matter of perspective, okay? It's not so much the facts themselves that often get people down or lift people up. It tends to be, how am I perceiving that?
Yeah.
How am I looking at it? It's hard when bad things happen, like the COVID stuff. We've all had family members that have gotten sick, different things like that. We struggle to see that good news. We struggle to see God's hope for us in those things. But there's an old adage that life is more about how you react to something as opposed to what happens to you. And I think that's a very valid message we can take from what Corey told us on Sunday. Is it's not so much about what happens to you; it's how you react to what happens. And I think that's what God wants us to understand is. Despite how much he loves us and he brings us the message of hope, especially through his son Jesus, we're going to be tested just like Jesus was.
Yeah.
And it's up to us as good Christians to try to take hold of that and do something with that message and to bring others along with us and those sorts of things. So, our perspective is really important, especially during times like these, making sure we see the light all around us, and it is there. It's not going. It hasn't went away. It's just a little tougher to see some days than others. So
yeah, it's a matter of are we looking for it. And Corey shared the 5 things of the good news that he talked about, and it's truth, hope, God's promise, everlasting life, and salvation. And I thought, that's really those are the anchor points for us in our faith. Those are the things that help us to have the right perspective and to be able to face any challenge with a solid foundation that it's going to be okay, that God is in control. And I really loved when he talked about truth, that Jesus brought the good news of truth in who he was, that he was the embodiment of God, that people no longer had to search around and try to say, what is God really like? We have a physical, tangible example of that and who Jesus Christ is and who he was. And so, that's such a solid thing to be able to build on right away.
Yeah, I agree. And that resonated with me too. A statement that we get to see what God is. We can read the scripture, look through the Bible, study the lessons, but the reality is you feel somewhat removed from that, if for no other reason, simply the passage of time.
Yeah.
And the stories we hear and the things that we read about in the Bible, our society tells us are more things aligned with what you would see in a fiction movie or something like that. But when you see what Jesus did, what he went through, what he does for us, we get to actually see God in action. And I think that's even more important today than it was back in the time when Jesus was alive. People need something concrete to grasp to.
Yeah.
People hear the word, but what they really respond to is when they see those words in action, when they see that concrete example. And that's what Jesus did for the people back then, what he still does for us.
Yeah.
That we have that concrete example of what God is, what his love is, what the truth of him is. And that's important. That gives people an idea that, what? I can believe in this because I have seen it. I've seen examples of this throughout my life. And that's important for us. The hope, the love, and all that, that's great too. But have those concrete examples in front of us on a daily basis, even though we may not always see them. It's huge.
Well, what does hope look like? It looks like what Jesus has offered us. And he is the language in everlasting life that, without Christ, that we are on the road to death, which is like pretty stark terms, but also very real. But with Christ, we are on our way to life. I'm prepping for a funeral that I'm doing tomorrow, and how vivid that becomes, when you're faced with that really, in those moments, it is the hope that we have in eternal life that keeps us going in those times. That was such a beautiful, that we are on the road to life, that our life is headed towards something good, and more good than we can comprehend and imagine. And that's really, to me, that's good news. That's incredible news. And then the other piece that I really liked, I was trying to pick out my nuggets from his sermon, when he was talking about salvation. That so often we talk about sacrifice. That once we are saved, that we have to leave kind of our old ways behind, and oftentimes people kind of feel like it's such a big sacrifice because I don't get to do what I want to do anymore. But he says, no, we're free to live our life victoriously. And I just thought, yes, I am someone who can look at my life and when, running away from my calling, because I believed that it was, if I answered my calling, I was going to lose all the stuff that I wanted, right? But really, it was only by answering that calling that I gained everything that I could have imagined and more. And so that resonated with me, that it is only by saying yes to God that I've had the life that I have. I feel like it's richer and fuller and better than anything I could have imagined. And I've done some really incredible things that I don't think would have happened, or those opportunities wouldn't have happened had it not been because if I had, without saying yes to Christ.
Yeah, and I think we can take something from that. As there's the old adage around Christmas time, having young children, and I know you do too, that you often try to tell them it's better to give than to receive. That when you actually give, you end up getting more back than you ever planned on. And that's what, I think that's a scary thing for people, when they think about following God and think about religion, and they tend to focus on the old school doom and gloom, the Old Testament stories, that becomes so familiar, but that's not what it's about in any way, shape, or form. I think when they understand that when you do care for others, when you put people before yourselves, when you show love and compassion, the feeling you get back from that is something that can't be bought with money or solved through credit cards or anything. I mean, it's really a unique, amazing experience. And as you said, those feelings open you up to something completely you may have never expected.
Right.
Well, I don't know if I can make it to church on Sunday because I have this, and this going on, or I don't know if but when you do those things, very rarely have I ever seen anybody walk into a church building and then leave saying, gosh, I wish I wouldn't have done that. They get something out of it. It might just be a small little bit. It might just be a little tiny. Maybe they paid attention to 10 minutes out of the hour, whatever the case might be. But you know what? You leave with something. And I thought that was really neat how Corey said that. Part of that salvation, part of knowing we have that everlasting life, it doesn't just give our lives meaning, but it gives the little things we do each day meaning as well. That we can be part of something bigger than ourselves. And the great thing about following Jesus, the great thing about the words we've been hearing over the last several weeks, is that you don't have to do anything extravagant. It doesn't have to be this huge gesture. You don't have to be Jesus. And nobody can.
I was going to say, in fact, we don't want you to try.
No, by no means. But you can see what I'm getting at. It's just the little things and the little things are what makes the biggest difference in people's lives. They really do.
Yeah, it's little things. It's the little things that add up to a great life. And I absolutely believe that. Corey, he told me, and then beforehand, that it's something that he likes to do is to give challenges. And so he wasn't going to preach this without ending it with a challenge. And so his challenge was that each person who hears the sermon is challenged to share the good news with one person this week, and that they're supposed to let me know about it. And so I'm still waiting. But it's only Tuesday, so you've got your time still. So as someone who is part of the church, who's heard that, what does that bring up in you? What kinds of things do you think about that maybe could be options for people? Because again, he said it's not about, going up to a stranger. Do you know Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior? As you were talking, what are the little ways that we can share our faith and share the good news?
Yeah, I mean, we have options, and when you think about sharing things, sometimes people think about the raw basics of communication, talking to somebody, putting something out on Facebook, sending a text, an email, those sorts of things. But it doesn't need to be that literal. And I think that's where a lot of people get hung up about spreading the good word, is that they get nervous about how exactly they're supposed to do that. Okay, I'm not exactly a podcast veteran here by any means, and so doing something like this was definitely a little out of my wheelhouse too. But
well, if you notice the quality difference, that's because I'm also not a veteran of this either.
But one way we can do this, what I think of is I take an example from our children. Children are amazing at spreading good news without even thinking about it.
Yeah.
And we have to let our kids understand is we hear you when you tell us those things. Yeah. And I think that's one really great way is, if you're a parent, and you have a spouse at home, tell your kid, go share with your mother or your father the good news of Jesus and see what your child does, especially if they're younger. Go out there and just see how simple it is for them to do that, because they're not hung up with these preconceptions of what should or shouldn't be, what's socially acceptable.
Right.
They don't get embarrassed about that. Or go tell your grandpa or your grandma or a trusted friend, and just see how they do that. And we can learn from that a little bit.
Yeah.
And despite what kids think, their parents do listen to what they say.
It's true. It's true.
I tell my kids that all the time. I teach social studies, and I say, I know you're not old enough to vote, but make your opinion known to your parents, because you know what? They'll listen to what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I think our kids are a great medium for doing that. So it's something a little, unusual. Maybe try something like that.
Yeah.
And you can learn from that a little bit, and they'll inspire you. And you know exactly what's going to happen when you do that. Your spouse or your friend or your grandparent or your mother or father, whomever they're sharing the news with, is going to come to you and say, "You'll never guess what little Susie just told me."
Right.
There you go. Your child just started the conversation for you that you had no idea how you were going to start yourself.
Right. Well, and that's part of the reason that I do the God moments that we do now during our worship service. It's part of that training up, because again, it's thinking about it slightly differently. Your God moment might be something very personal to you. I saw God when I was out hiking this weekend, or in the fishing boat, or maybe I saw God in this music video. So it might just be sharing this, this thing really meant something to me, and I want to share it with you. That is sharing the good news. If God spoke to you through something and you talked to a friend about it, saying, this meant something to me, this really touched my heart, I just wanted to share it with you in case it means something to you as well. Again, that just starts a really natural conversation. It's not saying, do you know Jesus? Do you have a relationship with Jesus? But it's saying, I went to church this week and something that my pastor said really stuck with me. Or, just saying, that simple invitation of, my church is going back into the building in a couple weeks. You want to come check it out with me and see how crazy it is? Like, boom, you're done. Evangelism. But yeah, I think again, it's going back to, it needs to just be your own story and your own experience. You're not trying to be a theologian. You don't need to preach at people. Instead, it's about just inviting people into your own experience of this is why this matters to me. This is why I say yes to church and no to other things. This is why I care about this mission. Those are all God moments, and those are all good news. Whenever we can share what we do because we love Christ, that is a God moment, and that is sharing the good news, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And it doesn't always have to be through your words. It can be through your gestures. It can be what you do for people. They'll know we are Christians by our love. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that very much is a center of what we think. I mean, as Christians, it's not just the words we say, it's what we go out and do. And it's not just attending church. One of the lines some of you have heard me use before is, sitting in church doesn't make you a Christian any more than sitting in your garage makes you a car.
Right.
Okay. It's all about getting out there and doing that. And when you do that, you will be amazed how quickly it spreads. And I know not everybody uses the internet, but the things that are the viral videos, the things that spread so quickly, go out and take a look at that. And I'll bet you 10 to 1, most of them are positive things. Yeah. It's not the negative, terrible, horrible things people say and do that get so popular. That might get the attention on the news.
Right.
But it's the good works, the good things people do. and it'll spread in places you would never have imagined. I remember playing an online video game one time, and somebody did something really special for someone. Okay, this is not a community I would classify as ultra religious, or it spread throughout the whole thing just like that. It was unbelievable, and I think we'll see that in our lives too. But it doesn't just like opportunity. It doesn't just fall in your lap and happen because it's just there. God is counting on us to be those disciples, to be those messengers for Him. All these points about this being the greatest news we will ever hear, and Corey had 5 great points about that in his sermon. In order for that to continue, that's on us.
Right.
You know, we have to make that effort, and we have to go out there through our words and our actions. And I know almost any of you watching this, you all have those abilities in abundance. You know, so go out and do that. You know, let Katie know about your God moments, or let her know this week how the good news you've heard and you've shared. You know, that's exciting, and that's stuff she can share with us. You know, as we move forward. You know, that sort of thing. So. Yeah, but let people know that it's out there. We all know it is. We're all good Christians, but sometimes it's nice to be reminded and to see some of that.
Yes, you know, again, it's that opportunity for us to reflect back. Last week in our podcast, Corey kind of talked about that as the pastor, I'm like the head coach of the football team, and our church as a whole, all of us together are a call to make the mission happen and to make disciples. That's on all of us to do. And so he's definitely, you know, leaving us with that challenge to go out and to share the good news, to bring more people into that loving relationship that they can experience new life through Christ. You know, and he's someone who this church did that for him. And so he knows it's possible, and he knows that you are all capable of it. And I know that too.
Yeah, and you know, we'll all be there for each other, you know, during that. You know, Corey left us with a good challenge and a good message. You know, it's up to us what we want to do with that. You know, none of us, of course, wanted to see Corey go anywhere, but you know, the reality is those things happen. They happen to all of us throughout our lives. The big question is, what do we do with it now?
Yeah, that's a big question. Just across the board, you know, as we move forward, things are shifting and changing, but God is good and God is faithful, and we're going to take things as they come, and we know that this church is in a good place, and we're going to be good, and so it's just a matter of us working together to make the mission happen, and I think that we can and we will. So.
Yeah, and we all do it in our own little ways. You know, anything anybody can help with, be of assistance with, you know, that's always welcome. That's always great. You know, even you know, the old analogy, the longest journey still starts with one single step.
Right.
Just take the single step. Worry about the journey later. That'll all work itself out. That'll come along as we move forward. You know, but take that little step. Okay? Share the good news. You know, if you got time, volunteer to help with something, those sorts of things. And, you know, that whole journey will fill itself in as we all move forward together as a family. But, you know, and, you know, honestly, taking that first step's the hardest one. It was for me years ago when I decided to get back into doing some of this, fell away from the church a little while myself. And it was not easy. It was a little scary at times, but I could never replace what I've gotten out of it over the last several years because of it, and so much of that is because of you people watching. And Katie feels that already, and she hasn't been here that long, so that's pretty impressive. So.
Oh, absolutely. You know, I've shared before that this church has quite a legacy, and I've experienced it in my time, and I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited that as we continue to move forward and grow, that you know, I'll get to know you better and more deeply, and we can find our best ways to move forward and to be the church together. So that's as much as there's a lot of change. I'm still super happy and super grateful to be here and to be the pastor here. Although I did say to someone the other day, I guess I'm not senior pastor anymore because I have no one to be senior to. So that was short and sweet while it lasted.
That's right. I think you're definitely senior to all of us. You are our coach. You are a spiritual leader. You know, and that's I think that's something we're all very pleased with. We recognize and appreciate your efforts, and I think we can all say with certainty that this has been a unique situation for you. Your timing is impeccable. in that regard. So, but well, it always does, and it'll work out. And we can take inspiration from the message Corey left us with this week, and through his example, as Katie said, he came up in the church. He came to where he was through us and through our love and through our compassion and through our actions. He would not have been doing what he was doing if it weren't for all of the people around him that he surrounded himself with when he walked through those doors that first time.
Well, and I think to be brave enough to accept the new challenge that God was laying before him, and to go back out into the world, with that evangelistic heart, to reach new people wherever he is. That's a brave thing to do, and so I think again it's credit to the church to love and support him, that he felt like he can make and continue to follow God's calling wherever that leads, because it does shift and it does change and evolve. And so I'm really, really proud of him, and really proud of what he's done in the church and the impact that he's made. Grateful to no end. Sad that he's moving on for my own sake, but also know that God is preparing the way for something new. So it's going to be good.
Yeah, and I'm going to miss him a whole lot too.
Yeah.
I can't add much more to that. You already didn't stole most of my words. But no, I mean, it's been great. And, but I also know Corey enough to know that, he's ready for us to accept that new challenge too. And he's ready for us to go forward with that. And the beautiful thing is, as he said on Sunday, and as I think Katie reiterated, it's not like we're losing Corey. It's not like he's moving 1,000 miles. He's still around, and we're all around for each other. And, as we move forward, new amazing things will happen to people. There might be another person like that sitting in our midst we don't even know about yet. Yeah. I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
And there's no substitute. You can't replace anybody when they leave. My performance here today should resonate with that fact. But, you can never do that. And that's not what we're looking to do here. Each person that has led this church in whatever capacity has done so in their own special way. But each new person that comes in brings us fresh new gifts that help lead us even further, and we build upon those things. And that's what we're going to do as we move forward. And we've got a great coach here in Katie. I think that'll go really, really well, but you will need our help. One person can only do so much. And, I know the church will, as it's done every single time, step up, because that's been the motto of this, ever since I've walked through those doors some 10 or more years ago. So I'm really, even though things are a little uneasy in the world and in church in general and all that, I'm actually kind of excited for what's coming forward. I think it'll be an interesting time. I think we find out a lot about ourselves during these times. And so I hope a lot of you out there feel the same way, because as Katie said, this is all an opportunity for us. So.
Yeah. I just want to be clear, though, that I actually would be a terrible football coach, and so this is all an analogy. Don't call me for actual coaching of any sort. Just want to make that very clear. But Chad, thank you so much for joining me today and being willing. If this is something that you think might be fun to come hang out with me and do a podcast with me, I would love to have you. I would love to kind of get to maybe know people that way, and for you to get to see each other and interact. That would be really fun. So just let me know. I know for some people, if I say podcast, just all the color drains from their face immediately. So it's okay if it's not, but if it's something that you think that could be fun, I would love to have you join me. So just putting that plug out there. But would it be all right if we prayed on our way out?
Absolutely, and thank you for letting me join you. And for those of you out there, this isn't that bad. Please come do it. It's pretty low key, that sort of thing. And it's one of those things we were talking about. You're going to get something out of doing this. I already have, and I'm sure it'll resonate with me more throughout the week. This can be my God moment this week.
There we go.
Yeah. And
he probably is going to get sharing the good news in with someone through this as well.
Exactly. Yeah. If one person listens to this, hey, that's good. That's more than people that usually listen to me. So that'll be great. So yes, definitely, I would love to pray, and thank you, Katie.
All right, thank you. Dear God, we give you thanks for this time together, and we give you thanks for those who are tuning in and listening and watching this podcast. God, we ask that you would be with us and be with the church as we continue to move forward, as we continue to trust in the good news that you have given us through Jesus Christ, that good news of truth, of hope, of God's promises of everlasting life and of salvation. God, it is truly more than we deserve and more than we can truly comprehend, and we give you thanks. And help us to be those bearers of good news out into the world. Help us to find that one person that we are called to make an impact on this week, God. Even in little and big ways, whatever opportunities present themselves, help us to be willing to say yes, even if we're a little bit uncomfortable, even if we feel like we're not equipped in the way that we would want to be. God, we trust that you can use us just as we are to spread your word, to spread your grace, to spread your love in a world that desperately needs it, and in a world that is so dark and searching for something solid to stand on. Let it be you. Let us be the ones to help point people to that. We ask all of this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Well, thank you so much for tuning into our podcast, and we will see you again next week. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks again for joining us on this episode of What's Going On. We'd love to have you join us for worship on Sundays, either in person or online at our website, www.firstumcyankton.org. Have a wonderful week, and God.